Hey, and welcome back to Ancient Ways for Modern Days. Thanks for joining me today as we are almost to the very end of 2 Timothy chapter 4, the final letter of the Apostle Paul, as he writes to his apprentice Timothy, who is being instructed on how to lead a church. And really, so much of this instruction shows how to be a Christian, how to be a faithful follower of Christ. And so today, as we come to the near end, I want us to zero in on the importance of relationships. I want us to see how, toward the end of this letter, Paul just has so many relationships that he values, that he comments on, that he recognizes their importance. Because this is the reality. Christian life is meant to be lived in community. As we love and care for each other, as we stand firm together, as we stand against those who oppose Christ together, we see these relationships in this community that Paul, he holds so near to his heart. Let me show you what I mean. We are in chapter 4, verses 9 through 17. Paul says to Timothy, he says, "Do your best to come to me soon." Timothy, I want to see you. I would like to see you before I die. Do your best to come to me soon. For Demas, in love with this world, has deserted me and gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia, Titus to Dalmatia. Luke alone is with me. Look at these guys that have some deserted, some on other missions. And he says, Luke alone is with me. This is the author of Luke and Acts. In fact, the book of Luke is oftentimes considered the Gospel of Paul because Luke wrote it he had so much of this awareness because of his travels with Paul. So now Paul says, Luke alone is with me. He says, get Mark and bring him with you, for he is very useful to me for ministry. This is Mark that had a falling out with Paul. And now, at the end of his life, Paul says, I'd like to see Mark. We didn't see things eye to eye, but I love him. And I desire to see him, to be near him. I desire to do ministry side by side, even just for a short while. The text continues. Tychicus I have sent to Ephesus. When you come, bring me the cloak that I left with Carpus at Troas, also the books, and above all, the parchments. This is important. As believers, we value not just relationships, but we value literacy. We value truth. We value the books and the parchments that reflect the truth of God's word. He says, Alexander the coppersmith did me great harm. The Lord will repay him according to his deeds. You notice Paul doesn't say, Timothy, I want you to get him back for me. Timothy, I want you to seek vengeance on my behalf because this brother or this guy, Alexander the coppersmith, he did me great harm. No, Paul recognizes that's in God's hands. That's in God's hands to handle those who have done evil to me. He says, beware of him yourself, for he strongly opposed our message. This is just the reality as believers. And he says, in my first defense, no one came to stand by me, but all deserted me. He says, may it not be charged against them, but the Lord stood by me and strengthened me so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed to all the Gentiles, and all the Gentiles might hear it. So I was rescued from the lion's mouth. Paul says, look at this. I felt deserted, I felt abandoned, I felt alone, and yet I was not. In fact, I'm not even mad at those who did not come and stand with me. But you know what? I don't want it held against them because at the end of the day, the Lord was with me. He strengthened me so that I could proclaim the message of the gospel fully to all the Gentiles. What a great reality. What a great reality. So as I was rescued from the lion's mouth. Listen very carefully. Relationships are important. We value relationships. We value our church community, those who love us. Listen, relationships are hard. Sometimes there are those like Alexander the coppersmith that do harm to us as believers or to churches. They oppose the message. Sometimes we're hurt by Christians. Sometimes we're hurt by non-Christians. And these relationships, I'm not going to diminish them for 1 second, but look at the most important relationship. The Lord stood by me. He strengthened me. Listen, I hope you have deep fellowship with other believers. I hope that you have men or women in your life that love you, that pray for you, that are for you, that encourage you, that walk with you, that hold you up when you're weak, that edify you, that teach you. I hope you have that kind of relationship with many people. I hope your church community experiences that gift, that beauty. But listen very carefully. There may be seasons where you don't have any of that. But what you have is the Lord himself. And he can strengthen you. And he can care for you. And he can provide for you everything you need so that you can do what he has called you to do. So you can share the message of the gospel with whoever the Lord puts in front of you. You are not alone. He will strengthen you. In fact, he will preserve your life. That's what Paul says. I was rescued from the lion's mouth. His life was preserved until the moment the Lord decided to bring him home. What a great truth. We need not fear. We need not fear when we're alone. We need not fear when we're surrounded by loved ones. We need not fear when we have a hard situation before us or when we are called to share the gospel in a way that might be intimidating. Why? Because the Lord is with us. The Lord will stand by us as we stand in his will. And this is the ancient way for our modern day.